Awesome. Well, welcome to Michigan Business Talk. My name is Mike Dokter. I am excited about this episode specifically. I'm excited about every episode, but this episode specifically because I get to talk to my great friend Mike Dykstra, and I get to share that conversation with you. And every time I talk to Mike, it's always a good conversation. We always touch on some awesome things. And Mike is the president of Zeeland Lumber Corporation, Zeeland Lumber and Trust, correct? Is that
Correct.
the official company name and the official title?
Zeeland Lumber.
Zeeland Lumber.
Yep.
Okay, Zeeland Lumber or Zeeland as the old country
Old
says
country.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Such an aggressive, bouncy language, isn't it?
It is.
But Mike is here from Zeeland Lumber. Mike, thank you first of all for coming on Michigan Business Talk. I'm excited. We've been trying to schedule this for a little bit now, and I'm glad you're here. We're going to talk a bit about Mike's story, a bit about Zeeland Lumber's story. The interesting thing about Zeeland Lumber is we're not in Zeeland, Michigan right now, and it's probably a bigger company than you think it is. And they probably do a heck of a lot more than what you think they do. And it's a family business, always has been a family business, but it has an amazing growth story. And Mike was a lot of the catalyst for that. And so, Mike, thank you. I appreciate you being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your backgrounds. You're from West Michigan, right?
No.
No? Yeah? No?
No.
No, not from West
I'm
Michigan.
married into West Michigan.
Married into West Michigan.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are you from originally?
I was born and raised in London, Ontario, Canada.
London, Ontario, Canada. You know what? I forgot that little caveat about you. I didn't know that. London, Ontario, Canada. So, now were you married into citizenship? Was this a green card marriage, or was this like? I'm just playing. I'm just kidding.
I do have citizenship.
You do have citizenship. Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. So, from London, Ontario, Canada, how did you tell us about your background? How did you make your way to Michigan in the United States? How long did you live in Canada? How long you grew up there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, again, thanks a ton, Mike, for having me on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, we go back a ways. We met at when we were doing our EMBA program.
Yes.
At Davenport University, and had a lot of good times there and great learning. So we've kind of stayed in touch since, and I really appreciate this opportunity. So, I was born and raised in near London, Ontario, Canada, and I went to Calvin College here in Grand Rapids.
So is that how you?
That's how I kind of came to West Michigan.
Came to West Michigan. Okay.
I met my girlfriend, fiance, became my spouse, and we moved actually away from the Grand Rapids area the first 2 years of our married life.
Like probably a lot of people do.
And then my father-in-law would talk to me about this lumber company in Zeeland that he was running at the time, and after a couple of visits, and I was kind of intrigued. I'd worked in construction some summers of college and had different various jobs, remodel, new construction stuff. So I was kind of interested in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And one weekend we were visiting. I said, "You keep talking about this lumber company. There's so much opportunity. You're growing. Talk to me about this."
Right.
He's like, "Okay." So we went and he told me all about the business, and so we did what I said I wouldn't do in college is work for my father-in-law, number one, and live in Zeeland.
Zeeland.
Just kind of didn't seem that fun, exciting, small town. The whole thing, but yeah, that was already a little over 25 years ago, and it's been a great industry, number one, and it's been a great business to grow and thrive in, and that's just kind of how I ended up in the family business. And
and did he start the company?
No, my wife's great grandfather started the company in 1947. He also started a feed mill type company, and so my wife's grandfather ran the company for a short time, and then my father-in-law, and then I worked for my father-in-law for the first 15 years.
Sure.
And then of my career, just kind of those first years, just head down, learning the business, learning the industry. I learned it from kind of the ground floor, like literally general customer service, taking phone calls, walk-in customers, whatever.
And I was just about to ask you, like, when you came into that business, because so when you went to Calvin, what was your degree in?
Political science and history.
Political science and history. All right. So we have a Canadian.
I'll come back to that later.
We have a Canadian studying political science and history at Calvin College who is now going to run a lumber company.
Yeah.
Right. or get into the family business in the world of lumber, and so talk to me. So political science and history is not a business degree.
Right.
Probably not one business class in that entire program.
Right.
Right. With your family, did they have a business background? Did they
agricultural community?
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, self-employed. I learned the hard work ethic.
Sure.
And entrepreneurialism.
Yeah.
And make do with what you have and make something out of it, and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But the turning point in our company with my leadership was in 2010 when the company went through a leadership succession plan and hired an outsourced consulting agency to say, okay, well, my father-in-law at the time wanted to reduce his role, eventually retire, which he did, and a couple years later. But our board of directors, searched internally and externally, and I'd been there for a while, and I had a progression of, from general customer service to product purchasing to department management to sales management to operations management. So I'd literally been around a lot of the business, and so I put my name in the ring.
Is this something that you had planned on or wanted to do?
At that point, I had. At that point, I did.
Yeah. After 15 years working in different capacities of the business.
This is kind of the next step for me. I would like to have this leadership role. There's an interview process, and you remember 2009 at the time was and into 2010 was deep recession. So
absolutely.
when I say deep, other industries experienced their version of the recession. Our industry experienced an 80% decline in new home starts. Wow. Which
that's a big deal.
Big part of our business is new homes. Yeah. New home construction, and we lost 80% of our market overnight. So it was pretty rough times in general. Just trying to stay afloat and make the right decisions with such a declining revenue. Number one. Number two, this leadership transition was happening. So the board said, okay, Mike, congratulations, you're promoted to president. So I went home to my wife that night and I said, well, the good news is I got a promotion. The bad news is it's still a terrible time in our industry. And then the other thing that the board said is they had asked me previously, what do you think you need to succeed in your job? And I said, I've thought about going back to school and getting an MBA.
Sure. And
so again, they said, okay, congratulations, you have the job, but we're not only going to encourage, we're going to require that you go get your MBA. So then I went to my wife and I said, and I got to sign up for some extracurricular activity here that will take me away from families. But and again, that's how we met. Yeah. So those first few years were major learning the new role, learning leadership, and I had some leadership experience, but not at that level, and kind of making that transition and building the team, not differently than maybe my father-in-law's team, and making some tweaks there, then moving along, and then obviously doing the MBA program with you and getting that learning, and then just continual learning. So at the basics, at that point in time, and we talk about our company a little bit as a tale of two companies, one pre-recession and one post-recession.
It's amazing how things like that completely can change how a company operates, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's like, well, and sometimes, they say necessity is the mother of all invention. So, okay, here we are. We have this, small regional company, now small for a lumberyard in our space. We had, approximately 100 employees still, at that time.
Which is still a decent sized company, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
Being responsible for 100 employees, 100 lives, making payroll every month, that's a significant thing.
Yeah. And so we sat down and said, okay, we have this with our new leadership team, and we have this opportunity, this platform of a lumber building materials company that services residential remodel, new construction, homeowner, professional builders, contractors, and primarily West Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So there we were, one business activity. Basically, it's a distribution model.
Yep.
We serve what we say the messy final mile to the job site.
Sure.
And service our customers on time and complete with their building materials as they need them. And we said, well, what do we want to do now with this? And so we kind of carved out a bit of a vision and a strategy to say we wanted to do two things. We wanted to grow geographically,
Mm-hmm.
so we're not just dependent on West Michigan, and we wanted to grow into more value add. So value add meaning vertical integration, manufacturing, and for us that was trusses and wall panels. Trusses, the triangles, that go on top of the homes and apartments, and
Well, I do,
wall panels.
Other people might not.
Kind of
Yeah, that's
throwing it
right. Right.
And wall panels meeting a need of which we can talk about later, but kind of a declining, a bit of a labor constraint.
Sure.
And so it's kind of, we're building wall panels indoor.
Mm-hmm.
So that really kind of set the foundation
Mm-hmm.
for what would be, really the 2010 through now we're in 20, 10 years of growth.
Yeah.
And what that is now is we have, so at that point we had one location and approximately 100 team member employees, and currently we have 6 locations. 3 of those are full service lumberyard building materials, the Zeeland Lumber side of the business, and 3 of them are Zeeland Truss and Components, which we brand similarly, but it's just a bit of a different business activity. They synergize separate locations. So 6 branches and 350 team members. 2 of them are in West Michigan of the branches. 2 are in Indiana, Elkhart and Mishawaka, which is kind of near South Bend.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the northwest Detroit suburbs, kind of Commerce, Novi area, and in Waterford.
Wow.
Northern Oakland County. So
So in 10 years, that's a lot to take on. So it's not just taking a business from what it does well to what it does better. It's taking a business almost away from what it's done well for the first 60 years of its existence, 70 years of its existence, or not just taking away from it, but putting effort and energy into something brand new, right? And building it pretty much from scratch. I mean, you didn't have any other easy ways to integrate this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you figured it out and developed the plan and executed the plan. And I guess I want to tout a little bit or ask the question, do you feel that what we learned when we were studying our executive MBA assisted you in leading through this change effort?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And I would agree with that, right? And I'm a huge fan of Davenport, as you know. Still work with them quite a bit, and am active there quite a bit. And Mike is as well, and has a lot of connection with them. But talk a little bit about the things that you feel that were imperative in what you gathered from furthering your education. You as a new executive, right? Because I think a lot of people who would have stepped into that role, and thankfully you had a good board of directors and people and advisors who were telling you, hey, you need to go get some more business education. That's a requirement of taking this position. That's really cool. But I think a lot of people who take over a family business who have worked in it for 15 years, I think they take for granted where the opportunity that they leave on the table by not getting further education from people who have been down that path already.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you drew from that experience in getting educated at a higher level that specifically and directly impacted the growth of Zeeland Lumber?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm like to say career-long learner, lifelong learner. So it doesn't stop there,
Yeah.
and it didn't
Sure.
necessarily start there either. I self-taught myself, just obviously through doing, but also reading and going to seminars and different books and so on. So it just but getting into the MBA program with a group of the cohort that we had, another group of business professionals that went through every class together. and learn together both the formal education, academic, but also the practical, and through interrelationships with one another. I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, it's a whole new, not completely new, but a more robust language on how to speak about business, and so the leadership lessons we learned along the way, the strategy development and deployment, the financial performa, and those types of things. That was totally relative to what we did, because here's us, we're young and relatively young, progressive, aggressive kind of management team that I'm leading, and we're going to a board of directors saying, hey, we want to purchase a building here because we think this. Yeah. So, full understanding of a performer with a internal rate of return, discounted cash flow model, payback model, all those types of things that I could work on with our CFO, and understand the assumptions and the risks and all those going in was imperative, and it was one thing that's kind of interesting. That one of the last classes we took, we did like a simulation. Yeah, and yes, we did. Tons of fun. So you can. I love that. You have a lot of levers in business all the time on what you can do, and where you make investments, and that includes on your people side, but also on your capital improvements, equipment, new startups, acquisitions, all these types of things. And you have choices all the time, and so that so then every period we'd make all these choices, and then we'd say, okay, this is how you perform. Yeah. So I kind of felt that same rush every month when the P&L would come around, because here we did all these things, and we think it's all going to work, but here's how the actual numbers are working. Yeah. And but you also find out, like in life, like in business, they say the road to success is full of potholes, and it's never a straight line. I mean, just like a budget, just like a performa, it's like a playbook in sports. Yeah. And it's like, okay, this is how you plan to do it, right? And then you got to play the game. And then you need to execute. And then when you play the game, guess what? The competition does something different, or you have someone on your team that doesn't maybe do what they're supposed to do. And, sure. And it's nuanced, it's complicated, and that's kind of it really is. They say it's all about the people, but for us it was about the people. It also was about communication and measurement. Sure. Because you think of in terms of a one location, I pretty much personally knew everyone. I could walk around and just call everybody by name. Visually, you could see kind of how things are operating. Yep. Trucks on time, things are moving. Sure. Oh, there's a problem area here. There's a mess here. Whatever. You know exactly what's going to happen at 3:30. You know exactly what's going to happen Tuesday at 10:15 a.m. Yep. It's it becomes a little predictable. Right. Yeah. So preparing for multiple branches, we did one thing early on that I thought was a good move is we put in a new ERP. Okay. A more robust back office computer system that could help us track and measure more real time, accurately, and then we put on top of that a WMS system, a warehouse management system. Okay. So major change, even cultural change, because instead of pulling orders now on paper, our team members are pulling in the yards off a scanner. Yep. And all their workflows being directed through scanner, and there's a whole change management story there, but basically, some people, not everyone comes into that change with hey, this is going to work out in the long term. Let's go through the pain process mindset. Sure. Which is my mindset. I'm a little more change oriented, and status quo not so much. Let's move forward. Let's make some improvements. And this was a massive change. So, but both those early on changes helped us as we grew to other branches. Now we had metrics and key performance indicators, and, absolutely, dashboards and things that we could say, even when we're not physically in those places, and getting the narrative all the time from the various leaders of those branches, but then actually having real data to look at to say, okay, the data kind of frames the narrative a little bit.
Right.
This is on, this is off, this is,
Sure.
how are we going to work together to meet our goals, and so that was kind of key. And the other thing is, came early to me was just how difficult and complex communication is.
And I was going to ask you about that, because you from an executive perspective, right? You have your plan, and you've put just from a coach's perspective or whatever, you put so many hours. You plan with your team, your leadership team, your executive team, cabinet, board of directors, whatever it is. Well, probably not the board, but you plan with these individuals exactly what you're going to do. And you have this plan, and now you need to execute. You've invested in new systems, new tools, right? You've put a lot of capital investment, working capital into an effort into a new thing. And now you have, like you said, every month or every quarter, you have these little checkpoints. You have these little stop-go points, and you have to figure out all the millions of things that happens, right, with your 100, soon to be 350 employees that added up to all this stuff, right? Like you said, in the midst of change management, are these individuals happy with this new system? Is this system causing them problems? Is it hard to understand? Does it cause delays for the trucks getting out? And if the trucks are delayed getting out from here when they have to get over to Detroit to be able to get this over here, you have all these things to go through. How do you accurately, because you're somebody who's easily adaptable to change if you have the right facts. I remember your Kobe analysis. Mm-hmm. If you have the right facts, and if you have the right information, you're like, yeah, let's go. I'm down, right? And if you have the right information, you do that. How do you cast that vision to everybody and get that type of buy-in for everybody, and also in the midst of those stop-go points when they're maybe looking for excuses like, hey, see, this didn't work, right? How do you step in and, because, man, from what I know about you, I mean, you're probably one of the most open and non-judgmental people I've ever met in my life. Every conversation I ever have with you, you can sit down with Mike the first time like you've known him for 1,000 years, and you're very easy to talk to. Your advice is very sound, but your employees don't always look at a leader that way. Employees don't always look as an executive that way, right? So how did you start to blend, hey, this is who I am. I was one of these individuals, and now I'm up here in their eyes, and I'm making these new crazy, decisions, which some of them may be in support of, and others of the old timers, just the new kid coming in, mm-hmm. right, and doing these things. And now you have these checkpoints and these stop-go points where you see, hey, it either works or it doesn't work, and you have 100 different opinions to manage in the midst of it.
Yeah.
Right. Tell me about that process. Tell me what that's like. Tell me how you manage through that.
Well, there's.
I know there's 1,000 things there. I shouldn't have asked that question that way.
There's a ton there, but I'll get back to the communication piece. I'm making a note, right. But I want to start by saying that one of the other so how do you build the foundation? Okay, we talked a little bit about ERP and computer systems and data and so on, but really it's most important. They mm-hmm. say some very smart people say culture eats strategy for breakfast, right?
Amen.
So how do you really kind of get a firm foundation on that? So we hit up early on our purpose, mission, vision, values mm-hmm. piece.
Yeah.
And we had, we worked with an outsource company at the time that helped us with kind of a rebranding. Mm-hmm. But we didn't just say, hey, we want a new logo here, give us a logo design. We mm-hmm. said, who are we? What do we aspire to be? What's our core values? Mm-hmm. What's our purpose? Mm-hmm. And we went through a whole exercise. We got feedback from all stakeholders, our board, our customers, our suppliers. Who do you think we are? Our team member, employees, and we kind of put that all together, and we worked with our leadership team, and that's where we came up with the Build Trust logo that I'm wearing right now, and all our trucks and buildings have that. That's been kind of an identifiable logo. So we say that we are about building trust in our industry, and we do that with our core values, and we do that why? For the purpose of transforming lives and communities. And so
which is all very public on your website, by the way.
Yeah,
it's all right there.
Just kind of
it fits into the entire corporate culture.
So I'm a Simon Sinek fan.
Yep.
So he has the golden circle.
Yeah.
So in the middle is the why. Okay,
Start with why.
Purpose. Start with why. Transforming lives and community. Next circle is what. When we build trust through customized building solutions. At the every building solution is custom. We had to work through that. What does that mean? But that's our what. And then our hows through our core values of service excellence, integrity, career-long learning, community, financial success, and honoring God. And we have that on a one-page doc that we kind of went through that process 2010, 11. I think we kind of unveiled it in right around 2011. And then we've kind of lived with that, and we point to it often.
And it's not to say that those are the same things that Zeeland Lumber stood for since 1946, right?
Yeah.
It's not like it's anything different, right?
No, it's just nuanced different.
But what about the form? What did it do for your business when you put that on paper and started putting it in front of people? Because even if people know that that's what it is, and they know that's why they're going to work, and they feel that because they know the leadership and they know the people, and West Michigan family values, core values, Christian values, the whole deal. What was the difference when they actually had it formalized rather?
Well, yeah, and we did make some changes as well.
Sure,
but
sure.
So to say like it was exactly like it was, but we built on the foundation and then kind of cast it.
Yes, sure.
But what it does to what I've told many people, our customers and so on, is it tells us how to behave.
Yeah.
And it shows our customers what to expect.
Exactly.
And then, but it's really just a document until you reinforce it. So it said you kind of promote your culture by who you hire and fire and promote.
Yep.
That makes a statement. Yep. And you also, culture is also defined by what you celebrate.
Yes, it is.
But also what you tolerate.
Yes, it is.
So we had some early on, discussions around this and made some changes, and that kind of set the foundation, I guess. So all that said, when it comes down to strategy and vision and all those kinds of things, culture is what is the glue behind it, because it's really what gets strategy deployed, and it really helps our team members. There's a lot of gray decisions that everybody has and not everything's black and white.
Sure.
So
even when you have the best systems in the world.
Exactly. And even if you've got, their strategies, we're going from here to here, okay, but all these little micro decisions that all our team members make every day, they have to have some kind of lens on that. So that was important at the beginning. Then and then as we got into communication, we started with rhythm meetings, and part of this is I took a page off Vern Harnish and his book Scaling Up, his previous book.
Such a good book, by the way.
Yeah,
such a good book.
It really cans up everything we learned in our MBA into some operational ways of enacting that, and then we've since adopted a version of that and a version of the EOS Traction by Gino Wickman, the Entrepreneurial Operating System methods. But
which is going to be taught at Davenport, by the way, later on this month.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
they have some sort of, I think it's a lunch and learn or something. I don't know if it's in Detroit or Grand Rapids, but it's coming up last week of March.
It's blowing up. I mean, the EOS is a great. It's more. We found, so this is our little take, is the Scaling Up Vern Harnish approach is good on the one-page strategic plan.
Yep.
And a lot of the main principles, but the EOS system has helped us get it a lot more real. But anyways, they both believe in rhythm meetings, and we put
and describe for those of us who had, or for some of us who maybe haven't read those books.
Yeah.
What is a rhythm meeting? What does that mean?
Early on, we put in a weekly meeting with our leadership team, and we review metrics first and foremost. Like, what's the scorecard?
Yep.
This is what, and you got to have a goal too. So what do you set out to do? And it's either red or green.
Yep.
It's good. It's on track or it's not. And then we talk about the the issues of the day, and it's this weekly rhythm, and so that communication kind of builds this new way of doing business. Instead of just one location, you walk around. Now you've got everybody there calling in on a video conference.
Yeah, I was just going to ask how you manage that with the other locations.
Your branch right here has a green on this particular metric. Fantastic. High five. There's a red on this particular metric. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Like together, we're all open and accountable. We all share these metrics and the goals together, because they're defined on a annual planning process. And so that was a big change put into place. And then what the idea is then that rhythm meeting happens in all areas of the business with their supervisors and leaders. So all the metrics are different, and the topics are different, but that there's some cascading messages that happen. So everybody in our company is in at least one, and it could be a 10-minute stand-up meeting in the production floor. Sure. Or it could be a 30, 60-minute meeting and whatever they're doing. Yeah. But once a week, and that keeps that communication going. So
with that meeting then, and you have these metrics, and you have the goals, and I mean, businesses are run on numbers. Businesses exist to profit. That is what a business exists for. You have to meet the goals in order to keep giving somebody the opportunity to achieve the goals. If you don't do that, the whole thing implodes on itself. So how do you, as a leader, get the team to buy into the idea of, hey, we got to hit these metrics, but if we don't hit these metrics, it's a learning opportunity and nobody's going to get fired? Because people get scared of metrics. They get scared of numbers and red on a spreadsheet, especially in an executive leadership meeting, especially in one where they're, and it's not like you're putting people on blast, you're trying to fix the problem, but when somebody when a light is shined on a shortcoming in front of other people, it's a potentially very sensitive topic, right? So as a leadership team, how did you guys set the culture where, hey, these metrics are important and we need to hit these, but if you don't hit these, it does not mean that you're a worthless human being who's not capable of doing your job. And at some point, maybe you do get to the point where it's like, okay, you're not capable of doing this job and we need to find something else for you. But how do you get the buy-in where everybody's open and honest to actually talk about, hey, this is what happens and this is the real situation. I'm not passing blame. This is a real authentic situation. I can take responsibility here and here and here, and this is what I can do to fix it next time. Yeah. That's a hard thing for somebody to say. You got to take a lot of egos out of the picture. How do you set that environment and that culture? Because that's necessary for the type of growth that you had in 10 years. It was very, very strategic and planned for. It was very, very, this is what we're going to do, and you executed against it. And, you still have a great culture here. People still love to work at Zeeland Lumber because of all the things you mentioned earlier with your mission, vision, and values, and the golden circle. But it, like you said, in practicality, all that stuff's great on paper, but in practicality, what does it look like? How does it look? How can people get that buy-in and get that attitude from their leadership team and executives? Yeah. Well, great question. And first of all, it's not easy. So number one, there is the concept called the Peter Principle, where people have been promoted beyond their capabilities, and sometimes, and especially in a growing company, those are situations we had to deal with, and often the toughest things in leadership is to make those personnel decisions, so there's that, but really at the basic, it's a couple things. Number one, it's getting buy-in up front by having the shared feedback and
influence and of creating what does success look like in the first place. So if it's just me or anyone saying, hey, Mike, this is what we think you should do, and here's the numbers you're going to be graded on. You're like, well, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this, or I didn't even agree to it necessarily. Okay,
sure.
well,
is this part of other duties as a sign?
Right,
How does this work?
exactly. Yeah. So an annual planning process we put in early on, and we said, okay, well, here's our goals, and we tried to have a balanced approach on safety and operational efficiency, customer experience, and financial goals. And we say, okay, well, what are those? Let's put them on a wall. What should we expect of ourselves? And what's our rate of return all the way, and what does it mean to be on time and complete to our customer? What's our safety goal, and what's our efficiency goal? Okay, so you can back all into it and discuss it, and to say there's 100% agreement on everything, but after a while, we've had the discussion. Okay, this is what we're marching forward with. So it's kind of that whole process to get the buy-in up front, or at least the conversation and the feedback, so that we can collectively decide what does success look like. Then it's just a lot of human interrelations and conflict management work. But we're not alone in this, and there's many people that teach and train on this. I'm a reader, and I love different business books and so on, but I'm a Lencioni fan, so we did a deep dive on the 5 dysfunctions of a team.
Another great book.
And then the follow-up book, The Ideal Team Player. So all these things talk about team dynamics and open and honesty.
Conflict is healthy.
There's no room for artificial harmony.
Exactly.
Is one line I take.
The healthy conflict pivot point.
Right.
For sure. I just taught that last week.
So it just really is all that. There's a lot of love, but we got to be honest and accountable to each other. And then as a leader, you've got to be the one, being accountable as well, and sharing the vulnerability of what it means to fail, and what does failure mean. You mentioned early on so here we are, a company going into new markets with new customers. And just a quick note on new.
New thing you started doing 7 years ago.
Is building wall panels. So the labor constraint in construction trades is a big deal in our industry right now.
I will vouch for it.
So
I will vouch for it.
There just aren't enough new people attracted to the framing trades, carpentry trades, the things that need to get done to build homes and apartment projects out in the market. And that's got a lot of reasons for it that we don't need to get into, but at the end of the day, we don't have enough people doing the very, very important, essential construction trade work in our industry. In fact, we're founding members, and I was on the original committee of a Construction Workforce Development Alliance here in Grand Rapids that exists to market and promote construction trades. Which
is so necessary right now. If you're listening to this and you're in high school and you don't think college is for you for whatever reason, look into apprenticeship, look into a skilled trade, please. You will always have work. You will always have somewhere where somebody needs your expertise. You will absolutely 100%. Going out of high school, if you go into a skilled trade, I can almost guarantee that you will have a job within the first month that you are looking for it, because of the fact that it is so depleted right now. Places like the Ottawa area Tech Center and places like that are teaching things like this. If you have the opportunity to do that and learn that, it is so valuable. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
great plug, and I'm so glad we're on the same page on that. The message does get mixed, and not everyone is designed for the academic rigor of a 4-year college degree, but unfortunately, our society has put a lot of pressure on kids to say that is a high value thing.
And we both, by the way, have advanced degrees. We've gone to school for more than 4 years. We have gone on for continuing education, and we both believe it is valuable. But there is another space out there.
So we speak as a company in high schools, in all kinds of different spaces to talk about this topic. So it is very, very, very much a great opportunity in any of the construction trades. But we saw a need there, and we started a wall panel operation. So it's, again, manufacturing related to our truss operation.
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking to customers in maybe 2011, 12. They're like, "Why would I want you to build wall panels? I've got all these guys that I need to put to work." And okay, I get it. But a year later,
mm-hmm.
and now here we are in 2020. We have 3 facilities running 2 shifts, building wall panels. You can see them stacked right outside here,
mm-hmm.
and they're going to apartments, hotels, assisted living facility projects, mostly multifamily projects.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, all the way around, so a lot of this is new, right?
Yeah.
We're newly into manufacturing, we're new into wall panels, we're in new markets.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
So we're engaging with new customers.
Yep.
And the multifamily commercial business is significantly different than the single family business.
Very different.
Larger projects.
Yep.
Schedule intensive. Much more documented, much more rigid, contractual.
Mm-hmm.
So we're learning as we go into say we haven't stubbed our toe once or twice would be wrong to say that. So
Sure.
So one of our first toe stubbing, we had the postmortem kind of meeting, and
mm-hmm.
okay, here's what we expected to do in this job. Here's what we did. Had the whole team together.
Postmortem.
And my
it happens.
and I was kind of new leading at the time, and
sure.
and it was a significant amount of dollars that we thought we would profit and didn't,
mm-hmm.
For a variety of reasons. So after it was all said and done, the whole team was there, and I said, "Okay, team. Well, the way I look at it, we just paid X number of dollars in tuition.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take this failure and learn from it and grow and make sure that we manage that risk going forward."
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like you could almost hear like a pin drop, like it's a big sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Like
all the pressure was let out.
One of the persons told me afterwards they were like, "Oh, I didn't know what was going to happen in this meeting," and that kind of thing. And
sure.
and so that's kind of so all the way around when you say when there are issues, we have to have the right perspective on that. Now, if it continually happens, obviously
mm-hmm.
there's other issues, but
mm-hmm.
with the right people, the right culture, the right and we also, and we're still learning, how to have the right structure and process. So we, like a lot of companies, you grow from where to where we are, new markets, new customers, new everything. The sales come first, and the processes and structure come later.
Mm-hmm.
And we were always kind of working behind on that, and we still are to a point.
Sure.
And we're always learning and making improvements. So that was a big part of it. So it's your attitude towards that growth equals risk equals failure equals growth continuum.
Yes.
And how you manage through that is a biggie.
So I want to talk about, because not every business is in a situation or in a position where they can take a risk and fail, right? What are the things that you need to have in place? Because obviously you're taking a mitigated risk, right? And I don't know the whole story or whatever else, but there's 3 options when you take a risk. You can either make money, lose money, or break even, right? Making money is always the goal. It's what everybody plans for. When things go wrong, when something goes wrong, when it's a brand new thing, when it's an emerging thing, when it's a new initiative, the probability of breaking even or losing money increases, right? So what does a company have to do? What type of position does a company or leader have to be in order to be able to take a risk like that, and at the postmortem meeting be able to let the pressure out? Because that's not something that can always happen. Like, yes, you can invest in education, but not every company can do that. Before a company takes a risk, if they are building and they are humming along in their vertical and they're getting themselves in a position where they're looking at expanding into something new, I mean, obviously, Harnish covers us all and scaling up, but for you, for your experience, those 4 things he covers are imperative, I think, for everything. if you're going to look to build something new. But what are the major things that you saw from this experience? Like, if we weren't in this position, we could not have taken this L.
Right. So if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger, kind of thing.
Sure.
And if it doesn't kill you, so it has to.
You have to have enough life to stay alive,
right,
essentially.
Right. And the size of the mistake has to be such that it's minimal.
Sure.
Like
yeah.
It's okay. And you have to build some success along the way.
Yes.
So that was our trajectory. I mean, so to say if one out of every 20 jobs was like, ooh, what happened there? And then we learn and we kind of filter it back in.
Yeah.
Of these big commercial jobs, which is new markets for us. But I'll also say it does go back to it goes back to your attitude towards risk. So
sure does.
I sit as a continual learner. I've been involved with many industry groups and many other non-competing LBMs. We call ourselves in our industry lumber building materials dealers and trust companies from around the country, and we learn from each other. And I've been around the groups where they say, yeah, well, we tried that and it didn't work, so we're not doing that anymore. Well, that's one approach, right? But if you have on paper, hey, we do want to grow, and we do think, and you look on the forecasts and you see where the growth is, and a big market trend coming out of the recession was more multifamily, more robust growth in multifamily, less robust growth in single family. That still is the trend, and you see that with there's a lot of maybe the younger generation millennials maybe moving in apartments more than the previous generations did, and so on, and a lot of reasons for that. But at the end of the day, we saw that market was going to be out there, and we were committed to play in that market. So if your first job goes bad and you say I'm done, well then you're not really committed.
Not really committed.
You're just saying like
it wasn't an initiative; it was an experiment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it goes down to writing the vision and the strategy, and kind of saying, okay, this is what we think we can do, and then keeping on that, and then again around so another example of that could be this building, and we talked about this earlier when Mike came in. This building that we're sitting in right now, in July of 2014, a tornado came through from west to east, and it very narrow swath, but it nailed this building.
By the way, we're in West Michigan right now. We're not in Kansas. We're not anywhere like that. We are in West Michigan.
Right. Very random.
Yeah, you're not going to get a tornado every single season. That's
in fact,
how many years had it been since something like that had happened?
I don't know, but the weather channels, and I found out like around 1 a.m, got a call from our manager. Everyone's okay. Everyone's been located, but this is what happened. But he didn't know all the details either, so I'm up all night looking on the news channels, and they were calling it straight line winds. Straight line winds. Until I got here at 5 a.m, and I couldn't get onto Clay Avenue because it was blockaded off by the police officers because they said they still had dogs in buildings looking and to see if there was any people. Oh, and I'm like, oh, wow. This is more serious than I thought. Than a straight line wind. So we went around the rail tracks behind and walked in that way. And we knew it was a turn. We could see the disaster, and it was emotional to see that much damage. And because how long did you guys have this location? We moved here in 2011. You moved here in 2011. Yeah, into this building. Into this building. Yeah, we did a startup here in 2011. Put the truss equipment in. Moved it from Hamilton, which we had a small operation there, based on a merger from 2009. But basically, I call this a startup because it's all new, basically. Yeah, new and new people, and so that was 2011. We had just kind of started to get rolling, and the building started to increase a little bit on the market, and we're gaining some market shares. So things were rolling pretty good in 2014, and then boom, we got hit with that. So I told Mike earlier, we're blessed in 3 ways. Number one, no one was hurt or injured in any way, and we had 6 third shift team members working, and they were in the building while the ceiling collapsed on top of the truss table that they were working on. So they ducked under the truss table, and the ceiling. It was a very traumatic experience. Number two, we had just started a startup in Elkhart, Indiana, so we had a lot of capacity and not many people yet because it was new. So we basically did shuttle service back and forth and hotels and all kinds of things. And then, the third thing is we rebuilt. And so I go back to that, to the rebuilding piece, because you think, well, yeah, but if we didn't, it would have been an easy decision to say, well, I guess we tried that. We had a couple years into trusses now, and this is hadn't quite, met our expectation yet either, because we're still new. It'd been an easy time to exit.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just take the insurance money and be done.
Settlement out of here.
But again, because we had on our strategy that this is something we wanted to be in, it made that decision relatively easy. And with our
now, did you have
board
to,
of directors
I was just
and me,
going to ask you about that. Yeah.
we put a committee together, and we said we I proposed we got to make this decision pretty quick, but let's rebuild. We can do this even bigger, better now, and so we did. But those are the things that get impacted based on those foundational things. So when you say even the piece on a bad job, or on things don't go quite as well as they should be going here and there, anything's easy to give up on. But if you believe in the long-term trajectory, and that these are good markets to be in, and that if we keep making these learnings along the way, we can do this, then it changes your mindset. And you say, okay, we're going to get over the speed bump, and hopefully they're just speed bumps and they're not, potholes the size of this conference room. Take the ship in.
So let's talk about the speed bumps for a second, because you've just told me that in the first 10 years of your leadership here, there were what most would consider to be two catastrophic events. There was the recession, which cost you 80% of your business, and a tornado in West Michigan that did most of its damage on your building, and wiped out your new initiative. Really wiped out your new initiative, right? Or at least half of it, right? In terms of mindset, man, I mean, how do you deal with that? Like, you got to build something new. You get 4 years in, and maybe it's not meeting all the goals, but it's not, you're seeing what you thought, like, hey, this is working, it's starting to work. You go to bed on a whatever night it was, thinking, all right, I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to go get my coffee at the Zeeland location, and I'm going to see Jan or whomever, right? And, I'm going to talk to Mark, and I'm going to have whatever conversations. And then all of a sudden, 5 a.m, you're walking through what you just spent the last 4 years of your life invested in, and it's completely demolished.
Yeah.
How do you get through that?
Well, it's incredibly tough, but I think as leaders, no matter how this is a big discussion I've had with other people, but because you want to be your real self and be vulnerable, obviously, and be that leader that's real. But there are times where no matter how you're feeling, you just have to kind of suck it up, keep your chin up, stay positive,
play dad,
even though if you're feeling like, man, the whole world's coming to an end, and you have to be the one to say, we can take this hill, we can do this next thing, and we can get through this. Because if you're not, nobody will. Like you,
that's right.
you have to show that positiveness, and obviously in a very real way, and not underscore the pain and everything that it's going to take to get there. But and then it's all about the team. I will say the leadership lessons we learned as a team through that process, we wouldn't have had without that process. So they say, adversity is the way to growth.
It's very true.
It really is, because we came together as a team, and we had to have meetings twice a day, and between sales and ops, to just figure out who's getting what order, how the customer's going to be serviced, what's the messaging, what's the communication to media, to suppliers, to our team members, and and how everybody kind of came together through that was amazing. So, yeah, I don't know if that totally answers your question, but at the end of the day, it's really, and then I do go back to, having the vision and the strategy and the prior kind of really does give you the impetus to keep going, to say, well, if this was a good idea, a couple years ago, and it's still going to be a good idea 2 years from now.
Yeah.
Let's just not let this thing, get in the way.
Right.
We have to get through it.
Yeah.
And,
absolutely.
And then, like we did here with this new building, we had roughly a 3,200 square foot office, and now we have a 14,000 square foot office. So we built it for growth with all our full design engineering staff here for wall panels and trusses, but also showroom and salespeople, and every customer facing activity can be had. So it gave us an opportunity to put our stamp in the Grand Rapids market a little more robust than we were before.
Yeah.
And then we added some space in the manufacturing area, redesigned it a little bit, and added capacity there as well. So you can turn anything into good if you kind of just work through the process. But yeah, to say it was easy wasn't. And another, I guess another kind of, so I've talked a little bit about purpose, what we say our purpose is transforming lives and communities. Now, obviously no margin, no mission. So to your point earlier, a sustainable business has to be sustainable to be able to do any good in the world.
Exactly.
But how does this play out? So it plays out, well, we say, well, with our own team, our own lives, with training and education and so on. We found out early on that, the strength of our frontline supervisors was going to be the strength of our team member experience and our customer experience. And we were just growing like crazy. We're promoting people, hey, into these roles. And we found a little lacking on our part to train on the skill sets of what leading people means.
Yeah.
So we put together an internal 2-day curriculum that we've now put lots of people through. 60, 70 people through internally to say, okay, these are some of the, there's always a bit of a cultural element from myself, but a financial piece. Our HR team owns it and puts together a lot of it. But then we've partnered with IPEX on some other next level training and leadership development. So there's a lot of ways that we can transform lives. One other way has been where I would say social need has met economic need. So we were approached several years ago by a nonprofit organization that employs what we call returning citizens. People that have been incarcerated before. So the easy thing to do, and what we did previously, if someone checked the box and said, have you had a felony previously? Oh, well, that's an easy application or resume just to put
set aside
in a different pile.
Exactly. So
we said, well, okay, what does this mean? Can we help transform someone's life by being a part of their job, creating a job for them, and if some of these nonprofits have other of the support services needed. So one of the stats is recidivism is reduced by like 95% if someone has a job and housing.
Wow. So
if we can do that, we're kind of on that path. And so we went down that road. Now, people would say, well, that's a bit of a risk. Well, maybe, but it's actually, now that we've been at it for a few years, some of our really amazing, best, most loyal and productive team members have come through that program. And some have been now promoted. It always starts in production, but then promoted to maybe truck driving, material handling, into office positions, internal promotions. And that's been a very rewarding piece of the business where we're providing a job and helping change maybe the trajectory of someone's life.
Absolutely.
And obviously they're providing much needed talent in a very tight labor market right now.
Absolutely.
So it's a total win-win. But it was looking at alternative hiring sources like that, and then And again, well, why would we do this? We wouldn't have probably looked at that. That'd been an easy call not to even integrate with if we hadn't had some kind of purpose with our company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably seeing those roadblocks and just realizing, okay, well, here's an analogy for life, right?
Right.
here's how this works. So, and I think, first of all, kudos to you guys for doing that, because that's an awesome program. Did you work with? Is that Mark's organization, Mark Peters' organization, or the same organization that he works with?
So interesting. Yeah, we're also very blessed in West Michigan. You have a lot of collaborative organizations, and yes, Mark Peters at Butterball Farms and Fred Keller at Cascade Engineering.
Mm-hmm.
They've gone before us on this.
Okay.
They've been doing this for years, and so they're.
And
once you get networked in, you get a community of practice going.
Cool.
So people share best practices
Yep.
with other businesses that are doing this work. And then there's also an organization that was started by Mark Peters back in the day called The Source.
Yes.
And that is a organization that is a partner organization of ours, where it is basically it exists to reduce barriers that hold people back from work. So what are those barriers? Could be a financial stressor, could be transportation, could be housing, could be childcare, all the things that people all over our communities on our front line have challenges with that holds them back from work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes those are people that are in the situation of a returning citizen, haven't been incarcerated before, but a lot of times it's not. It's just people that are in our employee group that are having a challenge. So we have this organization that we can send our team members to, and they can work with one-on-one with somebody there on what that challenge is. And this the Source organization has a lot of partners, and they know all the community assets.
Mm-hmm.
They don't solve all the problems, but they connect to all the places that can help solve the problems, and they do budgeting classes, they do all kinds of things. So yeah, we've had some great experience with that organization. We've been members for a few years now.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And this is exactly why I wanted to start telling stories like this, and exactly why I wanted to start this podcast, is because there's individuals like you and companies like Zeeland Lumber who are doing things like this that nobody talks about and nobody is talking about. And you're not doing it to get the kudos. It's not like you're, thinking to yourself, hey, I am going to start this program so that people will talk about my business. That's not why you're doing it. But in the same respect, you deserve to be recognized for that, because it's an available option out there. And just like you're talking about, and just like you mentioned, a lot of these individuals, they're being overlooked either because they've been out of the workforce for so long, or they've had scenarios or situations that come into their lives, which, my goodness, we all have, right? Everybody has their shit. Everybody has their stuff. And so, being willing to play a part and to help clean somebody up, that's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
And it's not something that a lot of people would do, and it fits into your mission, vision, and values.
Totally.
And it's awesome that you guys almost had a gut check in the middle of it, in the middle of going through this and saying, hey, we might want to look at something a little bit differently here.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we say we do, this is what we do, but we only do it this far. Right. And being able to dive all in on that, I can probably, talk about companies on one hand that have really truly done that I know of, and you're one of them.
Yeah.
Right. And that's awesome.
Well, and it's early on we had to think, okay, what are the risks, and talk to our board and say, okay, is this where we want to go down? But then with the partnering with other organizations, and then learning a little more about the topic, it's interesting. Two people could commit the same act.
Mm-hmm.
Say, me and you did the same thing.
Sure.
One of us could get a felony, one of us could get a misdemeanor.
Yep.
Based on access to legal support, based on maybe race, financial, socioeconomics, all those factors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but yet, that felony is today's scarlet letter kind of thing, and it just hold you back. And that doesn't mean that everybody that's necessarily coming out of out of prison or county jails, is ready for work.
Yeah.
We still have
Also true.
a very thorough vetting process to make sure that this, number one, does the skill set match what we need, and then is this person, ready to hold a full-time job and make that step. And so yeah, that's kind of a big deal. And to your point, we've all done whatever, but 2/3 of Americans, statistically, would have served time if they'd been caught.
Yes, they would have.
So that's the other thing too. Before we,
yeah,
and everything even is context. There's people that we see that have served time for things that it'll blow your mind what these things were, and the context around it. And so it's been a real learning growth for me personally and professionally, but it's provided, like I said, at the end of the day, a much needed recruitment area for us.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I want to talk. Can we talk a little bit about your family? Is that cool?
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're a family man. And one thing, and I know you probably got a hard stop coming up here before too long.
Yeah,
so.
I just checked my watch.
Yeah, I got
Go
you.
ahead.
I got
We're
you. So you got another 10-15?
For
Okay,
sure.
Perfect. So family man, 3 kids?
3 kids.
3 kids.
Yep.
Girls?
Our oldest is a boy, then 2 girls.
Boy and 2 girls.
Yeah.
All out of the house now.
Yes, partially. Our youngest is a junior at Michigan State.
Junior at Michigan
During
State.
the school year, yes.
During the school year, yes.
Yes.
All right, but still get to visit dad during the summertime.
Right.
So obviously 10 years ago, right, when you took this position on, you did not have 3 kids out of the house.
Right.
You had 3 kids in the house in very probably formative years of their lives.
Yeah.
Talk about that, man. What was that experience like stepping into this position? I want to talk about, I don't know your wife personally, but knowing who you are, I'm sure she's amazing. Because anybody in this scenario and in this situation, you need to have the most amazing wife in the world to be able to do what it is that you're doing. And I know that because my wife is amazing.
Yeah.
And I know the skills that she has and how she helps me out. But talk a little bit about, being an executive leader, growing a company, basically quadrupling it in size, and raising a family and finding the time to do all this stuff, because your kids are active. They're athletes too, right? They were in sports there, and they still are, I think, playing in college, right? Some of them, or that did, yeah. So that's a commitment, man. What was that like? How did you balance all that stuff? Work-life balance is always this thing that everybody talks about, but nobody can ever do.
Right. And I was terrible at it.
Okay.
So, but I do have an amazing wife that, it would be a discussion point. And it was, so the whole, work-life balance, it really isn't, because you're not balancing, you're making trade-offs.
Yeah.
You're not like either doing one or the other and there's a balance. Tonight I'm working, so I'm trading that family time off.
Yeah.
But tomorrow afternoon I'm going to be trading family time in for work or whatever, and to be conscious of that, and there were times where and to be conscious of it for your team too. So if you say you believe in work-life balance and you want that, but then you never do that yourself, people notice.
I'm sure they do.
So I had to, and sometimes I would take an afternoon or leave early on an afternoon to watch a soccer game or something, whatever's going on. But then does the work go away? No. So it'd be nights and weekends and things like that.
Yeah.
So I had to, and I told the team, like, just because I'm, sending out communications on Saturday evenings or Sunday evenings or something, it doesn't mean you have to read it or listen to it or respond it just because it works for me. Yeah. But the feedback I got was, that doesn't really work.
Right.
So I would consciously try to, not send. I'd create any documents, communications, whatever I had to do, but then only send it during the workday, so that people weren't, the message that I was giving them was not like, hey, you got to be on 24/7, and respect their nights and weekends and evenings, just like I would want to respect mine. But
for sure,
you also have to you also have to go when you go.
Yeah.
And there are times and there are seasons. My wife would kill me for saying this because I've told her this probably too many times, but when I would say, well, it's go time.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when a tornado hits, or when
spring hits, or
you know, when you're ramping up, seasonality is a big deal, or the customer calls, and you've got to drive somewhere and deal with something. It is go time, and then you have to. In my way of thinking, you have to do that now.
Sure. So your oldest was probably
they were high
at
school.
the time. They were in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I had
so
high school and middle school.
Okay, so what,
And now
13 to 17 at the time?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So were you having conversations with them as well about what this meant and what you were doing and things, or was that more of something that sort of your wife headed up and handled in your partnership?
It's funny because it's different with each kid, and
sure.
you know, my
they take it differently,
and they're all, they're different. My oldest two are a little more driven and structured.
Mm-hmm.
My youngest is more the creative artist.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of fun, but
sure.
you know,
yeah.
So I think my son knew a lot more because he was in travel hockey at the time, so we'd do road trips, and then sometimes I'd be on the phone, and he understood and he worked in the business.
Okay, so he was working like
as high school
and
even early college and so on, and you know, my daughters had not as much in connection, but they all kind of understood the gig. But one time my youngest daughter told me, like, sometimes my friends ask me, what do you do? So what do you do? You know, I guess like in high school or something.
Right.
I'm like, oh well, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's interesting, and but it's been a transition now to kind of empty nesting the last few years.
I was going to ask you about that too. How do you spend your time now? Like, what do you guys do? How do you fill the time? Are you like binge watching Netflix now, or are you like traveling? What's the?
We do like to travel.
Yeah.
We were in Florida last week. We've been to Greece, Spain, different places, Europe, and different places, but and domestically as well. But so we do like that. We like to go hiking and enjoy the outdoors. I like to bike. My wife doesn't, so I do that on my own. Yeah. We bought a boat a few years ago, so we do like to do boating as a family, with other couples or whatever. Yeah. And we like hosting people. We have a great network of friends that we do different events and have dinners and stuff. So. Yeah, I mean, it's
active empty nester stuff.
It just is. I can't even believe it. But my oldest daughter, who's a nurse, and she went to Loyola in Chicago, got her nursing degree. Now she lives in South Bend because she got married last September. So our first wedding was last September.
Oh, congratulations!
My son-in-law is getting his doctorate in biochemistry at Notre Dame.
Nice.
He's a bit of a brainiac, not a lumber guy.
Nice. Good pick, Mike's daughter.
Yeah.
Good work.
So they live there, and my son. Just got engaged, and he lives in Grand Rapids and works at Bissell.
Awesome.
And then so they're all doing great. And my youngest is a junior at MSU, and she'll be working her way into full employment hopefully at some point in time in the next year or two. So
that's exciting.
Life is great.
That's really exciting.
Yeah,
that's really exciting. So dude, it's an awesome growth story, and you have every aspect of it, man. I mean, you started on the front lines, getting all the complaint calls. And worked your way up into management and put yourself in a position to win, and not just talked about being in a position to win, but actually did the work to put yourself in a position to win. And once you got to the position of leadership, I mean, you can probably say that's when the real work began. Yeah, it really was.
It really was in a way. Yeah. And I was privileged, blessed to be given an opportunity. And then I believe, the two most critical things of a leader is to create and communicate purpose, vision, values. Mm-hmm. So we talked about that. But then number two, build and develop great teams. And so none of us are anything without our teams that support us. And when I mean teams, I mean I have a very soft spot for the front line. So the people that are out there moving wood onto the table and building trusses and wall panels, truck drivers, material handlers out in all kinds of weather. You know, we get the easy job.
Yeah.
Sit
Oh,
in
yeah.
climate controlled and so on, but they are
Right.
the real rock stars.
Yeah.
And they haven't been easy to fill because whether it's manufacturing or material handling, truck driving, those are tough jobs to fill right now, all related to, you know, people being attracted to trades and so on. But at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Like I'm just really honored and privileged and blessed to serve them in whatever way, and to serve our team and our customers and however this all works. But yeah, it's a journey.
It is, and it's still going, which is what's exciting.
It is.
What's next for Zeeland Lumber? What do you guys got on tap for the next couple years? Anything like the, you know, prefab stuff that you initiated a couple years back? Is there anything new that's coming out that you guys want to talk about and let the world know?
I guess no big announcement.
Okay.
So like I alluded to before, you know, 2011 we moved here to Grand Rapids, but then the others were a little later. So 14 Elkhart, 15 Waterford, 16 Mishawaka, 17. 3 of those were startups. Yep. And 2017 was an acquisition. Mm-hmm. So we spent 18 and 19 and now into 20 kind of organizing what we have. So that's been kind of our mantra for the last, you know, 12 to 18 months. And this year's looking a lot like that. Now, do we have our eye on growth? Yes. New markets, more value add. And we think there's a play for automation as well. We think that what we call in our industry offsite assembly, so indoor framing, that we can take that even to the next level, and maybe we'll see robotics, and we'll see more automation, and we'll see you know, basically the ability to prefab an entire house from a shell framing perspective, and then reduce the time and the labor on the job. So the job site is maybe, you know, right now a big part of the process, and maybe we can do a lot more of that inside the factory than just put it together on the job in conjunction with some labor professionals. So we're poking that model around. It's being poked around in other areas of the country, and we're looking at that and seeing what that could look like long term. That
is awesome. Yeah. This is exactly why I was excited about this conversation, guys. Mike Dykstra, president of Zeeland Lumber. Awesome story of growth, expansion, and a family business. Not just that, but taking it to the next level. Innovation, creativity, emerging markets, new opportunities, taking tragedy and turning it into something awesome. We talked about it yesterday. I talked about it with Randy Rowe, who I interviewed from New Vescor. He, you know, we just hit on the topic of the coronavirus and everything that's happening right now. And every time there's a massive thing like this, the next 12 to 36 months is when massive amounts of opportunity are taken advantage of, and massive amounts of opportunity are there, and massive amounts of money are made, and people start new ventures and new lives and new beginnings because of tragedies and things like that. And you've shown that in your story, man, and it's an awesome story. And I'm glad to hear a little bit more about it. I know that the listeners were too. So, dude, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thanks
I
a ton,
appreciate
Mike.
it. This was really fun, man.
Great. Thank
Another
you.
great conversation.
Appreciate it.
We are Michigan Business Talk. Again, go to zeelandlumber.com. Check them out if you're looking for a job in the trades. I looked at their hiring stuff today, and they have a lot of positions to fill right now. So they are hiring, they're expanding in all these different areas. Listen to us, view us on YouTube, rate us, like us, share us, send some comments, let me know what you want to hear. Thank you for following. Thank you for paying attention to the ridiculousness that I spout off, and I hope you're paying attention to the people that I am interviewing, because they are all high-level individuals who know a ton about leadership and know a ton about taking your business and yourself to the next level. So thank you again for watching. Thank you for listening. Find us on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, YouTube, or on Alexa by saying, Alexa, play Michigan Business Talk on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time.